Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 93% rate. Trevor Zegras.
And they score on the lacrosse move!
Jake Gensel.
Gensel banks it towards the goal. He scores!
Cale Makar.
Cale Makar, he scores!
Stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you're a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey.
My goodness gracious me!
Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow at College Hockey.
Welcome to College Hockey Today. I am Jayson Hajdu with College Hockey Inc., joined as always by Brad Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald. Schloss, how is Arizona State? I guess just as importantly, how is the return home from Arizona State and that temperature swing?
Well, my car didn't start, so there was that. Yeah, it was a huge temperature swing going there and a huge one coming back. I kind of preferred walking around in a t-shirt outside. That wasn't bad. Pre-game, there's this, I don't know, it's a butte. Sometimes they call it a mountain, but it's not actually a mountain. But right behind Sun Devil Stadium. And you can hike all the way up there. So I did that before the game Saturday and was like, man, you don't get to do this in January very often at other places.
You've had a couple of hiking road trips this month.
Yeah, Colorado Springs, going through Garden of the Gods. That was not as warm, but it was very warm. I saw a couple NHL scouts doing the same thing I was on my walk up there too. So that must be a thing that, get out, move around, enjoy the weather, and then go watch a really good hockey game in a great venue. I really enjoy Mullet. You've been there.
It's intimate. Yeah,
it is wonderful college hockey, and the fans there. They have great fans already for being so early in their franchise's history. They great crowds both nights. They were into it. It was a really fun road trip.
Feels like every week we start this pod and there's a high profile injury, unfortunately, sometimes more than one, and that's the case again this week. Guy Gadowski confirming yesterday that Charlie Serrato is out until at least the end of the regular season for Penn State, just when the Nittany Lions were really firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, it sounds like they're hoping he's back for the playoffs, though, which is really the big portion. Of course, Penn State wants to shoot for a Big Ten title, but big picture, I think they really want to try to get back to the Frozen Four, and if they can have Charlie Serrato for the playoffs, that would be a big deal. Obviously, they've had some injury problems this year. When Aiden Fink went out, we saw an impact there, and they, getting some of these guys all healthy at the same time has been a big difference for them. But losing Charlie Serrato, over a point per game guy, that is a tough loss for the Nittany Lions.
Denver freshman goalie Quentin Miller left Saturday's game early with an injury. Do you have any updates on that?
I have not heard any more on Quentin Miller. So that could be interesting, of course, because he's really carried the load for that team. Johnny Hicks came in and, unfortunately for Johnny Hicks, I don't think he gets credited with the shutout. He played 55 minutes and stopped all 22 shots.
The old team shutout.
Yes. So that was obviously a very good game for Johnny Hicks. But Denver would certainly love to have Quentin Miller back. He's had a great freshman year.
Some big recruiting news, too, in college hockey in the past week, specifically out of Michigan State.
Yeah, Josh Ravensbergen, the goaltender for Prince George in the WHL. He's a first-round draft pick of the San Jose Sharks. He has committed to Michigan State. So if anyone thought that, I think we all assume Trey Augustine will sign after this year. He could have after last year. So if you thought goaltending was going to drop off with no Trey Augustine, well, all of a sudden here comes in a guy who's an even more high-profile draft pick than him. And, Melvin Stroll, their backup, he's kind of just there too. He had a great career in the USHL. So goaltending is not an issue at Michigan State right now. even if Trey Augustine ends up signing after this year. So Ravensburgen is, one of the best prospects around, and he's having a great year this year following his draft year in Prince George.
All right, let's dive into the on ice. And what did we learn this weekend?
It feels like we're starting to get movement right now. It's kind of moving time. Some teams are making big moves up. Some teams are starting to fall off. It feels like there's a bunch of teams that are making distinct charges in one direction or another right now.
Sure.
And it felt like for a while, maybe things were, we kind of thought we knew where things were going to be. And we thought some teams were contenders that are really starting to fall off. And we thought some other teams probably weren't contenders. And now all of a sudden they have arrived there. And it feels like there's a handful of these teams in every league that are starting to make major moves right now. And some teams that maybe need to slow down the bleeding a little bit here and get back on track before it's too late. So, sometimes you notice this at the end of the year, but right now I feel like we are right in it where some teams are really starting to establish themselves, or other teams are falling off right now and need to get back on track as soon as possible.
It really is stark right now. If you go league by league and you see all of the winning streaks and you see all of the winless streaks right now, that mushy middle is starting to separate across the board in college hockey. And we can start in Atlantic hockey, where only 3 teams in the country right now have a longer winning streak going than Canisius, which has 5 straight wins. Got Bentley still hot too since Christmas.
Yeah, Bentley's been pretty good, even though Bentley lost that series a week and a half ago to Sacred Heart. But yeah, Canisius is the one that kind of caught my eye after that Friday night game in at Lindenwood. Trevor Large not happy with his team's performance at all in that game. Canisius was 8-9-2. They don't look like a factor. The next night, Petter Wickstrom, with that unbelievable performance, stops 72 shots. Canisius finds a way, wins it 4-3, and that launched this 5-game winning streak. Canisius then goes and sweeps RIT, sweeps a Mercyhurst team that's been a thorn in everyone's side since January. And all of a sudden, you're looking at the Atlantic hockey standings, and Canisius is 1 point behind Holy Cross, 2 points behind Sacred Heart. 2 of those teams we thought were kind of separating themselves at the top. Now, all of a sudden, there's Canisius right there in the mix.
We talk about these teams as moving up or moving down right now. Canisius now this weekend has a home with Niagara that's been on the opposite end of that spectrum, winless since Christmas. Canisius has 3 of the next 4 on the road, but then they'll close out with 5 of 6 at home. So a big opportunity there for Canisius. Niagara, on the other hand, trying to find it again. And I'd put Holy Cross in that category too right now.
Yeah, Holy Cross also trying to find it a little bit. Holy Cross is, I think, 1-5-1 since Christmas.
Yeah.
Came back and had a really tough series against Bentley. Played a non-conference game against Merrimack, and then 1-4 against Air Force and Robert Morris. Robert Morris, by the way, playing pretty well as well. So, Holy Cross trying to find it a little bit after that really good run in November.
In the Big Ten, we talked a little bit already about Penn State, but 7 straight wins for them. And don't look now, but Gavin McKenna starting to light the lamp. A 4-goal weekend, including his first college hat trick on Friday.
Yeah, he's certainly getting hot right now. He leads Penn State in points per game now. He's tied for overall points with DeMarsico, 10 goals, 29 points in 22 games. A lot of talk about his first half and the ups and downs that he had in the first half. And, I think this is partly why guys like him decided to come to college. Were there parts of his game that were exposed in the first half? Sure. But that's how you prepare yourself for the NHL. It's going to be hard in the NHL. It's not going to be easy. And he's obviously come a long way since the start of the year, and he's getting red hot. But they have so many guys on their team that can score. The other guy that's jumped out to me is Luke Misa. He had a tough. He's another guy who came from the CHL, and he had he went to Christmas break with 3 points. And, since Christmas break, he's been hot. 8 points in the last 7 games for Luke Misa after having 3 points in the first half of the year. So some of these guys the freshmen are starting to get used to college hockey, and they're starting to find it a little bit. And, like you said, Penn State right now, one of the hottest teams in the country after that 1-0 loss to RIT. Awkward game, it was kind of, they had guys at the World Juniors, and then, I can't remember if their Spengler Cup guys played in that game. I think they did, but still, you're coming straight off the plane, a long day of travel. Yeah, Aiden Fink did play in that game. Demarsico played just in Webush, and Gadowski. But yeah, you're coming off the plane since then, and they're just scoring so many goals, Yeah.
Well, for all of the critique of Gavin McKenna's game this year, very quietly, he's second in the Big Ten in points per game in conference games. He's got 19 points in 14 Big Ten games. That's a pretty good sign for a young player making that jump, as you mentioned. I want to talk about Michigan State too, man. Yeah. For what that program went through last week and continues to go through, this is going to be a long process for them. That sweep under those circumstances, I think, for a team that's been good all year, that was as impressive a performance as we've seen from the Spartans this season.
Yeah, certainly they're probably going through a lot personally with the loss of a team member, really, a staff member, and that's. I can't imagine what everything all the players and staff are going through. But yes, Michigan State goes to play a home series against Minnesota, gets a sweep, still keeps rolling. But, that's one of the teams I guess we would put them in the moving up category, but they've kind of been moving up since
they've stayed up.
They lost the season opener. They've been really good, and it appears they're not going anywhere. But what the Big Ten's really shaping up into right now is kind of a 3-team race, and the one team that we're talking about, Wisconsin, is the one that's kind of dropped out. Wisconsin looked like they were going to challenge for the league title. Wisconsin still could challenge for the league title. The next 3 weeks, Wisconsin plays Minnesota, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. Those are the bottom 3 teams in the league. So the Badgers have a chance to get back on track, but they've been swept by Michigan State and Penn State the last 2 weeks. They've allowed a lot more goals than we're used to seeing a Mike Hastings team give up. But yeah, right now, unless they can make a surge, it is looking like a really good battle between Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, all within 1 point of each other atop the Big Ten standings. And it's also notable, Michigan has never won a Big Ten title. The only team that has never won a Big Ten regular season title in that league, trying to win it for the first time. And it's going to be quite a race to the finish.
You mentioned the Spartans sweeping Minnesota, and you texted me this a couple of days ago, and the Gophers have lost 7 straight games. And I honestly did a double take when you texted that it's their longest losing streak since 97-98.
It's a long time. Actually, do you know what's even crazier? I think 5 games was their longest since 97-98. That's how consistent they've been over the years, that they have not had a 5-6 game losing streak since.
And playing in tough conferences.
Yes. Yeah, so this is uncharted territory a little bit for Minnesota. And it doesn't get any easier. The Gophers have to play Wisconsin this weekend, who is going to come in extremely ornery after losing 4 in a row. That one is at 3M Arena at Mariucci. There are a lot of young players on that team, and they've just got to try to build and grow their games at this point, because there is potential down the road for this team to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how much they can change this season, but there are a lot of promising hockey players on that roster.
Just struggling to score right now. I don't think they've topped 3 goals in January, and it's possible they go the month without a win, depending what happens against the Badgers here. So yeah, just pretty unheard of for that program that's been so good for so long.
Yeah. And then, Notre Dame's a team that's going through it in that league as well.
Yeah.
The Irish finally snapped 10-game losing streak on Saturday night. So I'm sure that felt pretty good for Notre Dame to go get a win. First win since the non-conference game against Merrimack, which was the day before Thanksgiving. So Notre Dame beats Ohio State. Non-conference this weekend, Notre Dame against Bowling Green.
Yeah, home and home.
Yep. And, hey, we're going into the CCHA next. Let's start right there. Bowling Green.
Mm-hmm.
That team has been red hot in the second half of the year. We talked a little bit about them last week. Then Bowling Green goes on the road to Bemidji State, outscores the Beavers 8-2 in that 2-game series, wins 2 more games. The Falcons have been quite good. The one loss in that span, I think Bowling Green 7-1-1 in the last 9, by the way.
Yep.
The one loss in that span was against Lake Superior State in a game where Bowling Green outshot the Lakers 35-22. So they're playing really well right now. That's going to be an interesting series, and non-conference home and home.
There's a lot of these teams that just reminded me. I was listening to the CHN Insiders podcast this morning, a must listen every week, by the way, and they raise a good point that with all of this parity in college hockey this year, there's a very real chance for conference tournament chaos and automatic bids for teams outside the top 16 right now, and Bowling Green is Exhibit A.
Yeah, the way Bowling Green's playing right now. And what's going to be really interesting too, there appears to be a split going on right now in the CCHA, and St. Thomas might be the hottest team in the country. 10 straight wins for the Tommies. They are on fire right now.
No team in the country is scoring more goals per game during that streak.
Yeah, I think the Tommies are up to 3 in the nation this as a whole this entire season in goals per game. So this team is absolutely lighting it up right now. Some of the players, Alex Gaffney, the Harvard transfer who only played 4 games last year, his career high is 16 points. He has 30 points right now for the Tommies. So that has been a tremendous pickup for St. Thomas out of the transfer portal. Lucas Van Vliet, the freshman, he's been really good. He played for the NTDP, then to Dubuque, and has been he's been a pretty prominent player for a while. But yeah, it's goaltending. They've kind of rotated goalies here. I'm not sure, if Aaron Trotter is going to be the guy, if Carson Muster is going to be the guy, or what. But when you're scoring like the Tommies are, not sure it matters. On the
Lucas Wallen, 10-game streak. Nathan Pilling, 8-game streak. Van Vliet, 7-game streak.
Just a lot of really good players on that team. Michigan Tech and Augie, they both lost Saturday night, but they both had 6-game winning streaks going in there too. So Michigan Tech and Augie have been really good as well lately. The two teams that are kind of struggling right now, Bemidji State still has not won since Thanksgiving, 0-9-1. Minnesota State is 2-6-1 in the last 9. And Minnesota State, the Mavericks got a big win on Saturday night against Augie, but the Mavs haven't been used to a streak like that. And then when you look at the standings, right now it's St. Thomas first, Michigan Tech is in second, Bowling Green's in third, Augie's in fourth. Minnesota State's lurking at fifth. but just the way that the Mavs have struggled lately, it feels like there's a top 4 in that league right now. We'll see if Minnesota State now all of a sudden what you do is you look at schedules. When you have that split in the league, Minnesota State ending the year, Ferris State, Bemidji State, Bowling Green, and Northern. A chance to make a move. St. Thomas. Next 3 series, Michigan Tech, Bowling Green, Augie. Things are about to get a little more challenging for the Tommies. So, and in Bowling Green, which has been red hot, after Notre Dame, it goes St. Thomas, Augustana, Minnesota State, and Michigan Tech. So some of these teams are going to start really playing top-heavy schedules, and some are going to play bottom-heavy schedules. How can they do when those top teams are going head-to-head? Who's going to emerge?
Be interesting to watch, as will ECAC hockey. I got to watch the Cornell-Harvard game on Saturday, 4-1 win for Cornell, and good Lord, Lina Rink was just jumping for that game. The Big Red, 1 loss in their last 9 games. They're going right now.
Yeah, they are. And it just feels like, every time you talk about Cornell, the guy that jumps out is Alexis Cornway, the goalie who's playing really well. I'm really impressed by the number of minutes that Xavier Veillot is playing on the back end. Usually you don't have a freshman anchoring your D-core, especially with some of the defensemen that Cornell has. Hoyt Stanley has played a ton of college hockey. George Figueres has played a ton of college hockey. These guys are around, and all of a sudden Xavier Veillot comes in and he leads the team in time on ice as a freshman D-man. He's, 15 points in 19 games. The freshman class there has been really impactful, really impressive. And that's something that jumps out to me when I look at Cornell. As you said, 8-1 in the last 9. They're moving a little bit right now in the right direction. Number 9 in the MPI.
Quinnipiac is another team. They're number 8, right above Cornell. And let's see, they were 7-1, I think, or are 7-1 in the last 8. 7-game streak snapped by UConn Saturday in the Wicked Ice tournament. But Quinnipiac right there with Cornell, right in the middle of the pack in terms of the top 16 of the NPI picture.
Yeah, both those teams are looking good. Like ECAC's had a very good year. And I think one of the big differences this year, when you look at non-conference records, last year, the ECAC mopped up a little bit on Atlantic hockey and struggled against Hockey East. I'm bringing it up right now, but last year it was ECAC 22-4-5 against Atlantic. The record against Hockey East 8-32-2.
That's almost flipped. Yeah.
It has. This year, Atlantic has had much more success. It's 14-11-2 against Atlantic, but ECAC is 15-20-3 up, getting close to 500. So that's kind of been, some of these teams are performing much better against Hockey East teams, and that's been a difference for the ECAC when it comes to the MPI.
On the flip side of Cornell and Quinnipiac, 2 Ivies really, really struggling right now after looking so good for long stretches in Dartmouth and Princeton.
Yeah, Dartmouth now 3-6-1 in the last 10 after that blistering start that the Big Green had. Princeton 0-4-1 in the last 5. And all of a sudden, those teams who were sitting in really good spots in the MPI have, started to fall. Princeton's down to 30. Just a couple weeks ago, Princeton was in the top 16.
Yeah, I want to say they were 15 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. And now Dartmouth is on the bubble. Dartmouth is 12 right now, and they're still sitting right there with a chance to make it. But Dartmouth better turn things pretty quickly, or Dartmouth is going to fall off. Union and RPI coming up this week for Dartmouth. And then after that, a 5-game road trip.
Union's another team that just kind of some fits and starts. They're 8th in the ECAC, kind of middling in the last 6 or so, but it's go time now for Union as well. A team that's shown a lot of good things at times this year, could still be in that mix.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe Union is, 8th in the ECAC, 33rd in the MPI, when they've been as good as they've been in so many games this year. That one is just, I was looking at the ECAC standings and I'm like, man, how is Union 8th? But there's an opportunity to move up. Big game against Dartmouth coming up for Union. A week later, it's the North Country trip. The schedule is not super easy for Union, but
I'm looking at the league standings right now, and Union. There's only 2 teams in ECAC, and Union is one of them, with a winning record at home and on the road. That's overall, not conference, but they're 9-4-1 at home, 6-4-1 on the road, and yet on the outside looking in right now, crazy season. I guess a lot of it comes down to who you beat and when you beat them.
Yes, no doubt about it.
Okay, Hockey East, Providence, 6-game winning streak.
Yeah.
That includes sweeps of Maine, BC, and BU. And before I hand it over to you, I'm gonna rattle off some stats I pulled from their game recap on Saturday, because this is pretty impressive. First win at Aganis since 2018. First sweep of BU since 98. And first time in program history sweeping BU and BC.
Wow. and even crazy, Providence is doing this, remember, without the starting goaltender.
Without
Phillips Fedback's been out this whole stretch, where Providence swept Maine, swept BC, swept BU with no Phillips Fedback. I guess we're probably hitting the point where when Svedback comes back, is Jack Parsons the guy in net? Like, he's played fantastic for
got out Saturday. Yeah.
That Providence has really, that's obviously the hot team in Hockey East right now. We were talking a couple weeks ago about, is this a one bid league? Like, they had nobody in the top 14 of the MPI. All of a sudden, Providence is 7. So just a huge run for Providence. And yeah, that's been really impressive what the Friars have been able to do, and feels like they've had a lot of guys contribute to the success. It hasn't really been one guy up front that's carried the load. They have a number of guys that can make plays and hurt you.
UMass is on fire right now. Michael Robel. You can't score in UMass right now. What have they given up? 4 goals in their last 6 or something absurd like that?
I think 7.
Man.
Yeah, 4 goals in the last 7 games. So he's obviously dialed in right now, to say the least. But he had some injury troubles early this season, and maybe that affected him a little bit. He came back, and I know Greg Carville said maybe he came back a game too early, but it feels like he is dialed right now. And I think the question for UMass entering the season was going to be offense. How much can UMass score? So many guys that UMass lost from last year's team. When you go back and think about some of the guys they had, Cole O'Hara, was so good. Sunyev was really good. Lashmelis, Kenny Connors, who made his NHL. Did he play? I saw he got called up.
He got called up. They had a game canceled. I think that was Monday, the day he was called up, because of the weather.
Okay.
So, yeah, but it sounds like it's coming.
A terrific player, all situation type player. But you lose all those guys, and you're wondering where's the offense going to come from. And I guess when Michael Hrabel's playing the way he does, you don't need a whole lot. So, and that's what happened Saturday night at Vermont. UMass only needed one goal, and it ended up holding up. Lucas Olvestead scored late in the third period, and that was it. So, no goals allowed for UMass last weekend. Now, game against Northeastern on Friday night, a game at Lowell on Sunday for the Minutemen.
A couple other teams in Hockey East that are coming hard right now is UConn. They won the Connecticut Ice Tournament. Boston College, kind of like Michigan State, just they're not moving up. They've been up for a long time now. And Merrimack, 7-2 in their last 9.
Yeah, I feel Merrimack's kind of done it quietly. Parker Lalonde, freshman who they recruited out of the BCHL, is having a really impressive rookie year. He has 22 points in 23 games. He's tied with Trevor Hoskin as the leading scorer on the team. He is a +10. And when you look at and see that the next closest forward is +6 and the next closest forward after that is +2, that is a distinct plus for Parker Lalonde. And he has been red hot lately. He has, since December 12th, he has 6 multi-point games.
Wow.
And that's a 9-game stretch. So 6 of the last 9 games, Parker Lalonde has multiple points. He is playing really well right now for a team that's quietly been playing pretty well. They have a home and home with New Hampshire this weekend.
Merrimack just swept Northeastern, and it's been a tough go for the Huskies of late. 2 wins in their last 9. They go to UMass on Friday here, and then it's Beanpot time early next week. So Northeastern and BU, really the 2 Hockey East teams that are scuffling right now.
We are about to see a lot of BU BC.
Yeah, we are.
BU and BC play on Friday night. They have 2 games scheduled in February, and if the Beanpot steps up the right way, we might see them again. So BU in the next 8 games could play BC 4 times. So if you like some big college hockey rivalries, Hockey East is going to have that one quite a bit coming up. BC right now in the MPI is sitting at 14. So kind of a bubble. BU is sitting at 22. Those should be some intense games.
BU will get Sasha Boisvert back too, having served his 2-game suspension.
That obviously will help BU. He is, in my mind, been BU's best forward. If you look at points per game, he leads the team in points per game. Interestingly enough, he's become an assist guy and not a goal guy, because last year at North Dakota, he was the shooter who scored all the goals and the assists weren't there. But he has or I shouldn't say weren't there, but not on the same level of the goals. And this year it's, the goals haven't come, but still he's they'll take any pieces they can get. They obviously added Tynan Lawrence, who scored his first collegiate goal Friday night against Providence. And he's still going through his adjustment phase, I feel. He's got 1 point in 7 games, but BU played Lawrence over 21 minutes, both games against Providence. So that kind of tells you what BU thinks of Tynan Lawrence and how he's playing.
In the NCHC, we've talked the last couple of weeks a lot about Western Michigan and how they've found their footing as defending national champions. Currently a 9-game winning streak for the Broncos.
Yeah, they're just rolling right now. And to me, it looks like back-to-back 3 wins against Minnesota Duluth on the road, able to find a way on Friday night when the Bulldogs outshot the Broncos 37-21. So we read off Hampton Sakinski's stats last week. If you want to go back and listen to that episode, then Western Michigan comes back, finds a way to win in overtime. In interesting overtime where I believe both teams had power plays in overtime. Minnesota Duluth, which has a red hot power play, was unable to score. Western Michigan was, with a Liam Valente goal. And yeah, the Broncos are rolling right now. And I think that the two teams that are struggling a little bit that might surprise people because they're so high up there. Denver is 2-6-1 in the last 9 games. And Minnesota,
the two were big. The 2 wins on the last 2 Saturdays.
They were very big wins. They got the 3-2 win at North Dakota, and to come back and get a 6-0 win against St. Cloud State was quite big because the Huskies are playing pretty well right now. Yeah. So Denver tried to kind of get a little bit back on track after that 2-6-1. Denver plays Minnesota Duluth this weekend. The Bulldogs started the season 11-2. They are 6-7 since then. I believe in the NCHC, they're 4-7 since then because 2 of the wins were non-conference against Lindenwood. So Minnesota Duluth trying to find a little bit too. That
tough stretch ahead.
What's that?
Tough stretch coming up for them too here.
Yeah. So the Bulldogs play Denver this weekend at Denver. 2 teams that are trying to. They're still fine in the MPI. Bulldogs are 6 in the MPI. Denver is 13. So they're starting to get toward bubble territory. Big series coming up. Then after this week, the Bulldogs will host North Dakota without Adam Guyan because he will be leaving for the Olympic Games. Granted, Adam Guyan hasn't played well against North Dakota over his 2 years. So, I'm sure Scott Sandlin would much rather have the option to use Adam Guyan, but it may be Ethan Dahlmeyer instead. We will see. But yeah, huge series this weekend. I'm curious to watch that Minnesota Duluth versus Denver.
Yeah, for the second time in 3 weeks. St. Cloud State, you touched on them earlier, 6-3 in their last 9. Maybe an opportunity here to climb a little bit.
Yeah, and St. Cloud State is at 17 in the MPI, sitting right outside the bubble. 6-3 in the last 9 games coming up now are against Miami, Arizona State, and Colorado College the next 3 weekends. All 3 of those teams are in the bottom half of the NCHC. Of course, the bottom half of the NCHC is also pretty good. So I don't know if it's a huge break or anything, but that's an opportunity for St. Cloud State to put some wins together. If the Huskies want to get into that top 16, it should be moving time for the Huskies right now. They're going to have to. I
was just going to say, if they sneak in as, say, a 4 seed, it's not a team I'd be eager to play as a 1 seed.
No, and there's a good discussion on the USCHO pod last year. I can't remember when it was. I listened to a bunch of pods on the flight to Arizona, but one of their pods they got into the discussion about TV timeouts and the NCAA tournament. When you have those extra timeouts and you can play your extra guys more, that is a team that would love to play its top guys more than most teams.
Yeah.
Tyson Gross, Austin Bernovic, and Barrett Hall are really drivers for that team. So that's why that's one of the reasons I would not want to play that team in the NCAA tournament. We'll see if the Huskies can make up some ground the next 3 weeks here before they have a road trip at North Dakota to close regular season play. The Huskies have the last week off in NCHC play. They play North Dakota before that, which would be a big series. But yeah, they're kind of lurking quietly.
A few other things. You wanted to touch on some rivalry notes too, and then also in the independents, LIU, 4 straight wins. They're in a stretch right now of 5 games in 8 days in the state of Alaska. They took 3 in Anchorage. including a game Tuesday night where all 7 goals, I think, in the game came on special teams.
Yes.
They'll finish up in Fairbanks this weekend, but an old friend of yours, so to speak, with a big night Tuesday night for LIU.
Yeah, defenseman Nate Benoit, who played his freshman year at North Dakota, sophomore year at Quinnipiac, and now junior year at LIU. He had no goals in 66 career games entering Tuesday night, and he goes and has a hat trick against Alaska Anchorage. There was a guy who did this for Miami a few years ago. This is going to bother me now that I can't pull this guy's name, but he was a big kid, and he did not score like his. I can't remember for a really long time, but that's what this reminded me of. Was Miami Redhawks had a really big forward who broke through, but that you usually don't see that where you don't score forever and then all of a sudden you have a hat trick. There it is. Connor Lemarand. Okay, maybe he had a goal before, but he had 1 goal in X amount of games, and then he goes and has a hat trick. So that's 6'6" forward Connor Lemarand.
Good memory.
There's a blast from the past for you Red Hawk fans.
Hey, we talked about Union earlier, but we didn't touch on Brandon Buhr's game-winning goal in the Mayor's Cup against RPI. You saw that.
I haven't seen that. Yeah, go try to find that a clip of that overtime game-winning goal. He kind of, it was a puck in the air that he batted up to himself around the goalie and then whacked it out of midair for the game-winning goal in a really crazy game. That game was played in Albany like they usually do. Just a wild game that Union ended up scoring. Was it 2 extra attacker goals, I believe? Yes. So RPI scores an empty netter to go up by 2 goals. After the empty netter, Union scores 2 extra attackers. Brandon Buhr scored one of them, and then Union goes and scores the 3-on-3 goal. So just a crazy Mayor's Cup game in Albany.
Yeah, number 1 play on SportsCenter that night. So definitely go find that goal if you haven't seen it.
Maybe I'll go tweet that after we're done recording here too.
There you go. We'll put it in the show notes. I also want to give a shout out to St. Lawrence and Northern Michigan. Both tough seasons for both, but some big rivalry wins for them over the weekend.
Yeah, it's those rivalry wins can kind of it never erases tough seasons, but it has a way of making those guys feel pretty good. Not only did St. Lawrence beat Clarkson in Saturday's series finale, St. Lawrence tied Clarkson the first night. Actually, probably wanted to win that game. St. Lawrence was up 2 goals with 10 to go. Clarkson ties it with a couple of power play goals. That game was at Shield and Potsdam. Then St. Lawrence ends up coming home and winning 5-2 in the series finale. Rasmus Svartstrom's having a great year for St. Lawrence. 13 goals in 25 games. He had 4 goals this weekend. So that was a big one. And then, as you said, Northern Michigan playing in its rivalry game against Michigan Tech. The Huskies win the first night. And then Northern Michigan goes into Houghton and wins 3-2 in the series finale. Matthew Argentina with 2 goals in that game. Pretty big win for the Wildcats.
Yeah, they had been outscored 13-2 over their previous 3, so very nice response in a tough venue to win a game for Northern Michigan. Okay, we went through a lot. There's some great matchups ahead this weekend. We've got an outdoor game at Penn State. The Bean Pot, as we mentioned, is just a couple of days away. What are you looking forward to outside of what you're covering this weekend?
Yeah, well, by the way, the one thing I should mention that's kind of goes under the radar, Northern Michigan, Oliver A. Young Ashton.
Yeah.
He is 1-11 this year. He has a .930 save percentage.
Incredible.
That's for a team that's struggling to play as well as he has is really, and he was out for a while with an injury. He's back now.
It's a great save percentage on a great team. That's a good save percentage.
It is. And you know what? They've gone through a tough schedule in Northern Michigan. It lightens up a little bit coming up. So what am I looking forward to this weekend? I get to do what you do all the time. I get to sit and flip games. As much as I love going to
you're off, yeah.
Yeah, as much as I like going to the rink every Friday and Saturday, I've really come to enjoy the bye weeks where I can just sit and watch all these games live and flip all the time. And I probably will be blowing up your texts every game I'm watching. And there's a lot of really good games that I want to watch. So I don't know which ones I'm going to prioritize. That Minnesota Duluth Denver series is fascinating to me. I think Michigan State playing Penn State at Beaver Stadium on Saturday, where we're going to have who knows how many thousands of people.
And so much star power on the ice. Good Lord.
There will be. That's going to be a great, a really great series. Maybe I'll watch the first of many Boston College, Boston University games. They play on Friday night. That could be an interesting one. I mean, there's a bunch of games that I'm really curious to watch. So
St. Thomas and Tech.
Yeah, that'll be a really big series for Tommies to try to keep rolling. St. Cloud and Miami should be interesting too.
Yeah, some must wins for Miami. Oh, maybe for both teams, really.
Yeah, and obviously vastly improved Miami team this year. Should be a good series to watch. And Miami is going to be coming to Grand Forks in not too long, the 13th and 14th of February. So, I'd like to, I haven't really watched Miami since the first couple weeks, and like to check them out again here.
Hard to believe when we chat next week, it will be February already.
Beanpot coming up.
Beanpot coming up. Conference races are starting to crystallize and teams separating themselves both at the top and bottom of the leagues. That was a lot to get through. There'll be a lot to go through next week. Schloss, thanks for joining, and enjoy the couch time this weekend and the multi-screen experience. I highly recommend it.
It'll be great.
All right. Thanks for joining us. And thank you everyone for listening. Enjoy the hockey.